So, back in March of 2025, NASA successfully deployed the very first cellular network on the moon.
Right, which is just a wild milestone on its own.
It really is. But the crazy part is the company that built that lunar network wasn't SpaceX.
Yeah, it wasn't some, stealth Silicon Valley startup flush with venture capital.
No, it was actually the company that manufactured that chunky plastic brick phone that you probably used to play Snake on back in like 2002.
Exactly.
We are, of course, doing a deep dive into Nokia today.
And honestly, it is the ultimate disconnect between our nostalgic public perception of a brand and the physical multi-billion-dollar reality of modern global infrastructure.
Yeah, totally.
Because most people hear the name Nokia and they just think of a fixed point in consumer tech history. But if you actually look at the data, and today we have a massive stack of data from Nokia's 2025 annual report.
Which is extensive, to say the least.
Right. And looking at that data, that whole retro image just completely shatters.
Which is exactly our mission for this deep dive. Because whether you're, prepping for a tech strategy meeting or you are just intensely curious about how the internet actually functions under the floorboards, we really want to completely reframe how you view the invisible infrastructure of your world.
Because Nokia isn't just surviving. I mean, this is a 160-year-old company.
Right. And they actually just celebrated their 160th anniversary right alongside the 100th anniversary of Nokia Bell Labs in 2025.
Yeah, which is an incredible legacy.
Yeah.
But they aren't just sitting on that legacy. They are quietly acting as the central nervous system for the global AI revolution.
And the sheer scale of what they're doing is just difficult to comprehend if you haven't looked at the telecommunications hardware space recently.
Well, absolutely.
Like, we are talking about a company that in 2025 employed roughly 78,000 people globally.
Yeah,
And they pulled in nearly 20 billion euros in net sales.
it's massive.
But the number in this report that genuinely stopped me in my tracks was their R&D spend. They spent 4.9 billion euros just on research and development in a single year.
Right. And you don't spend $5 billion tweaking old tech.
No, definitely not.
You spend that kind of capital when you are attempting to physically engineer a complete paradigm shift. And Nokia actually refers to this shift in their financials as the AI supercycle.
Okay, let's unpack that because AI supercycle sort of sounds like marketing jargon, right?
It does, yeah.
So what does that actually mean for the physical glass and wires of the network?
Well, it means we're witnessing a complete shift in the type of artificial intelligence we rely on. So for the past few years, the public fixation has been entirely on large language models.
Right, the chatbots.
Exactly. You type a text prompt into an interface, and some distant server farm generates a text response. And sure, it's computationally heavy, but from a network traffic perspective, it's actually relatively contained.
I mean, I'm just sending a tiny text file up, and I get a slightly larger text file back.
Right, but the AI supercycle moves way past text.
Yeah.
Nokia is basically preparing the global network for what they call physical AI and agentic AI.
Okay, what's physical AI?
So physical AI interprets and interacts with the real world in real time. Think fleets of self-driving cars or automated warehouse robotics, complex remote medical imaging.
Wow, okay.
And then agentic AI means the software isn't just answering questions anymore. It's acting as an autonomous agent,
Meaning what, exactly?
meaning it's actively monitoring patient care protocols, or it's managing live customer service databases, making decisions without a human ever pressing a button.
Which completely changes the physics of how data has to move.
Completely.
Because if I think about traditional internet infrastructure, it was basically built as this massive one-way water pipe, right?
That's a good way to look at it, yeah.
Like, it was designed to deliver heavy content straight to our homes. I click on a 4K movie, and this massive file rushes down the pipe to my TV.
All right.
But my TV is barely sending any data back up the pipe.
Right, that's the asymmetrical model. Historically, upload traffic was just a fraction of download traffic. But AI requires a perfectly symmetrical model.
Because it's absorbing so much from the real world.
Exactly. It demands massive, constant uploading of complex data. So your self-driving car isn't just downloading a map, right? It is actively uploading gigabytes of real-time sensor data, 360-degree video, LiDAR scans, every single minute.
So it's like we suddenly need to rip out that one-way water pipe and build a massive two-way high-speed rail system where our devices are sending back just as heavy cargo as they receive.
And they need ultra-low latency because a vehicle dodging an obstacle cannot wait for a buffering icon.
No, obviously not.
So how do you physically build that two-way rail system?
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the most crucial strategic move Nokia made in 2025, which was their acquisition of Infinera in February.
Right, and they spent 2.5 billion euros on that acquisition.
Yeah, a massive deal.
And reading through the report, it seems like they didn't just buy a company to get a list of new clients. They bought a very specific factory.
Yes, they bought a wafer fabrication facility out in California. So Infinera is a leader in optical networking, but the absolute crown jewel of that deal was their capability to manufacture indium phosphide.
Okay, stop right there, because this is where I think the average person gets a bit lost in the material science.
Sure.
What exactly is indium phosphide, and why is Nokia dropping billions to own a factory that makes it?
Think of it as a highly specialized semiconductor material that goes way beyond what traditional silicon can do. It is absolutely vital for manufacturing advanced optical components, specifically something called photonic integrated circuits.
Okay, are those the optical pluggables mentioned in the report?
Yes, exactly.
Or are we basically just talking about the literal laser nodes that plug into the server racks to shoot light down the glass cables?
That is essentially it, yeah. They are the components that translate electronic data into light and blast it across the fiber optic network at just mind-bending speeds.
Wow.
And in the AI supercycle, the demand for these ultra-fast 800 gigabit optical pluggables is stressing the entire global supply chain to its breaking point.
Oh, I see. So by acquiring that specific California fab, Nokia completely de-risks their own supply chain. So they aren't just surfing the AI wave, they're actually buying the factory that controls the physical glass and silicon bottlenecks of the entire internet.
What's fascinating here is that this forces the biggest players in the world to come directly to them. Like, the 2025 data shows that 9 out of the 10 top global hyperscalers.
And hyperscalers being those massive tech titans running the cloud platforms.
Right, exactly. 9 out of 10 of them now use Nokia's optical networks. Because Nokia secured the physical hardware, their AI and cloud orders actually tripled in a single year, hitting 2.4 billion euros.
That is incredible. But moving all that light requires immense processing power to actually decide where it all goes.
Oh, absolutely.
And Nokia is a networking company. I mean, they build the roads, but they don't really build the AI brains.
No, they don't.
Which leads us to this massive pivot in their strategy radical co-innovation. And to get those AI brains, they went to the absolute biggest player on the board.
Right, NVIDIA. In October of 2025, the two companies announced this blockbuster partnership. And the crazy thing is, NVIDIA didn't just agree to collaborate on some research. They actually invested $1 billion directly into Nokia.
$1 billion. I mean, that is a serious vote of confidence.
It really is.
And the report says they are using that money to build AI-native mobile networks, specifically focusing on AI-ran artificial intelligence radio access networks.
Right.
So they are bringing NVIDIA's RRC Pro computing platform directly into Nokia's radio basebands.
Yes, they're essentially merging raw AI compute power directly with cellular transmission hardware.
Okay, hold on. I need to push back on the physical reality of this.
Go for it.
Because when I picture an NVIDIA AI data center, I picture endless rows of server racks roaring like jet engines, They consume millions of gallons of water and enough electricity to power a small city just to keep the GPUs from literally melting.
Right, the heat issue is massive.
So how on earth are they packing water-cooled AI chips into a normal neighborhood cell tower on the side of a highway?
Well, that is the exact engineering hurdle that the $1 billion is meant to solve. Because you're absolutely right. You cannot put a hyperscale data center on a telephone pole.
Right.
But the ARC Pro platform is this highly optimized, really ruggedized architecture, specifically designed for telecommunications environments. So it's not about strapping a massive server farm on a pole. It's about embedding highly efficient, specialized AI processing directly into the cell tower's baseband unit.
But why go through that immense engineering headache? Like, why not just send the cell phone signal back to the massive, heavily cooled data center in the desert like we've always done?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's actually because the speed of light is literally too slow.
Wait, let's pause on that. The speed of light is too slow for AI.
Yes, literally. Think about it.
Yeah.
If you have a self-driving car in Seattle that suddenly encounters an unpredictable pedestrian, and it needs a heavy AI model to calculate its next move, you cannot send that data packet all the way to a server farm in Texas, wait for it to process, and send the instruction back. Even traveling at the speed of light through fiber optics, the physical distance creates latency.
So the car will crash before the data gets back.
Exactly. The car crashes, so the intelligence physically has to move
It has to move to the edge.
right to the edge of the network. The cell tower down your street essentially becomes a decentralized mini AI processing hub. Nokia provides the radio technology to catch the signal, and NVIDIA provides the raw compute power right there at the tower to make the decision instantly.
Wow.
Nokia's stated mission is connecting intelligence, and this is the literal physical manifestation of that.
And reading through the deployment schedule, this isn't just theoretical whiteboard stuff either. The report states that T-Mobile US is actively partnering with them right now to test these AI RAN technologies in their live commercial network.
Yeah, they recognize they can't outbuild NVIDIA when it comes to processing chips, so they've just partnered with the absolute best in class to create a hybrid infrastructure that neither company could build independently.
But here's the thing. Building mini AI data centers in every cell tower requires an ungodly amount of cash.
Oh yeah.
And you cannot fund a 4.9 billion euro R&D habit if parts of your own business are dragging you down. Which sort of forces us to look at the brutal reality of Justin Hotard's takeover in April 2025.
The massive internal teardown.
Yeah.
When Hotard came in as the new CEO, he inherited this 160-year-old corporate structure that was basically divided into four main business groups. And the financial imbalances between those groups were just deeply, deeply problematic.
I mean, I'm looking at these 2025 margins, and it's almost comical how imbalanced they are.
Right.
Like the mobile networks division brought in 7.8 billion euros in revenue, but they were keeping less than 3 cents in operating profit for every dollar they made. That's a tiny 2.8% margin.
Yeah, it's incredibly tight.
Meanwhile, the network infrastructure group had a 9.8% margin. But then you look at Nokia Technologies, which is their patent arm, and they generated 1.5 billion euros, keeping over 70 cents on every dollar.
It's
A
wild.
70.6% margin.
You really have to look at the business mechanics behind those numbers. Mobile networks have become this brutal race-to-the-bottom hardware commodity game. You are constantly building physical antennas and trying to undercut competitors on price.
Right.
The patent division, however, has near zero marginal cost of reproduction.
Because it's just intellectual property.
Exactly. Once you invent the foundational math for a 5G connection, it costs you almost nothing to license that math to 100 different companies. It is pure profit.
So it's almost like a hospital realizing they make practically all their profit on elite neurosurgery, but they are spending 80% of their operating budget running the cafeteria, the gift shop, and the parking garage.
That is a brilliant way to phrase it.
To survive in the AI era, Hotard basically had to lease out the cafeteria and fire the parking attendants to focus entirely on funding those brain surgeons.
And that is exactly what he did at their Capital Markets Day in November 2025. He got up and announced that on January 1st, 2026, the old four-group model was totally dead.
Wow.
He simplified the entire corporation into just two primary segments. You have network infrastructure, which is the growth engine powering the AI revolution, and mobile infrastructure, which is just there to maintain core telecom stability.
And they really got ruthless about the gift shop and the cafeteria, too.
Oh, absolutely.
They took non-core assets, things like microwave radio and fixed wireless access, and just dumped them into a holding pen called portfolio businesses, which is basically a waiting room for divisions to be reviewed or sold off. They also spun out a Nokia defense incubator.
This raises an important question, though, because it requires an incredible amount of discipline. In the tech sector, massive legacy companies usually try to do everything all at once.
Right, they try to be everything to everyone.
Even if they are hemorrhaging money on side projects. But the report details a really hard pullback from broad venture funding. Hotard recognized that if you're going to compete in the AI supercycle against these massive hyperscalers, you cannot waste a single euro on areas where you lack deep differentiation.
So to go back to my earlier thought, it's basically like Nokia was flying a massive four-engine cargo plane where every engine is running at a wildly different efficiency. And to keep flying, they had to rebuild the plane midair into a sleek twin-engine jet.
Exactly. And that internal restructuring was basically a direct mirror reflecting a massive shift happening outside the company, too.
Because the people who are actually cutting the checks to Nokia are changing.
Right. The traditional telecommunications provider, the company you pay your monthly cell phone bill to, that is no longer Nokia's primary growth engine.
Right. The report mentions SAM here, serviceable addressable market.
Yeah.
And just to clarify for you listening, SAM just means the specific slice of the total market that Nokia's products can actually reach and serve, right?
Yes, exactly. So the SAM for traditional telecom providers is massive. It's around 69 billion euros. But it is entirely stagnant. Nokia only projects a 1% compound annual growth rate through 2028.
Which makes sense. They are totally tapped out. I mean, everyone who needs a cell phone plan already has one.
Right. But compare that to the AI and cloud market. The addressable market there is currently smaller at 17 billion euros, but it has a projected growth rate of 26%.
That's explosive.
It is. And the mission-critical enterprise and defense market is at 13 billion euros, growing at a very healthy 14%, which is why Nokia spun out that dedicated Nokia Defense Incubator, specifically to capture those high-margin government and military contracts.
So they are shifting the entire weight of the corporation to chase that explosive 26% growth.
Exactly.
But we really cannot talk about their customers without circling back to that hidden gem we mentioned earlier, Nokia Technologies,
Yes.
the division with the massive 70% profit margin.
It is arguably one of the most brilliant business models in modern tech. Nokia currently holds over 26,000 patent families, and over 8,000 of those are declared legally essential to 5G standards.
And why should you, listening to this right now, actually care about that? Because this is where the invisible infrastructure becomes incredibly tangible in your daily life.
Oh, entirely.
Because even if you haven't touched a physical Nokia device in 20 years, you are actively utilizing their patented genius every single day.
Yep.
Like if you stream a podcast in your Mercedes on the way to work, or you download a heavy file on your Apple or Samsung device, you are actively using their IP.
Nokia has over 250 active licensees.
Yeah.
Major global corporations pay Nokia a fee just to use the foundational wireless and multimedia innovations that their R&D teams invented over the last few decades.
It's genius. They don't have to source the aluminum. They don't have to build the battery. They definitely don't have to assemble the smartphone or the luxury car. They simply license the physics and the math that allow those devices to connect to the internet.
And that guarantees a massive high-margin revenue stream. Their 2025 report explicitly states they have over 800 million euros in recurring annual revenue locked in through the year 2030, just from these existing patent licenses.
It's just the ultimate feedback loop. They invent the infrastructure of the future, they patent the math, they let everyone else build the consumer hardware, and then they use those 70% margin profits to fund their massive R&D budget to go out and invent the next future.
And honestly, that ruthless capital allocation and that patent loop, those are the exact mechanisms that allow a 160-year-old company to remain at the absolute bleeding edge alongside companies like NVIDIA.
So let's bring this all together, because what a journey through this data.
It really is a lot to process.
We started out by picturing a plastic brick phone playing Snake, and we've ended up looking at the undisputed architect of the AI supercycle. We've uncovered how they are literally buying up California wafer fabs to arm the world's hyperscalers with indium phosphide. We've explored the sheer physics of latency and how they are packing NVIDIA compute power right into neighborhood cell towers to make instantaneous edge computing decisions.
And we saw how a new CEO mathematically dissected the company, identifying those low-margin hardware drains and the high-margin patent loops to ruthlessly restructure the corporation to chase that 26% growth rate in AI and cloud.
Connecting people was the achievement of their 20th century, but physically connecting intelligence is very clearly their mandate for the 21st.
Beautifully said.
Which leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought for you to ponder. We've established that Nokia is currently building the physical glass and silicon nervous system designed to house and transport artificial intelligence. But what happens in the next phase?
You mean with the evolution of agentic AI?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we are moving toward AI that acts completely autonomously, could we reach a point where the network's AI becomes advanced enough to monitor its own data traffic? Like, could an agentic AI identify a physical bottleneck in the fiber optics and then autonomously design, test, and request its own physical hardware upgrades directly from Nokia's factories?
Effectively creating a global infrastructure that expands, optimizes, and physically heals itself without a single human engineer ever intervening.
Right. Are we just building the infrastructure for AI, or are we laying the groundwork for an entity that will soon build itself? It is definitely something to chew on the next time your phone instantly connects to a network you can't even see.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the invisible infrastructure that powers your world. We'll catch you next time.